Hi, hello again and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope you enjoy. I want to put a disclaimer in for today's video. Today we are dealing with a cannibal case, and it's a lot more gruesome than any of the videos that I've ever done before. So if you are triggered by things such as mutilation or consuming of human flesh, I suggest that you rather skip this video, as it might not be the video for you. Also, I apologize in advance if I butcher any of the pronunciations in this video. I do my best to listen to how everything is pronounced, but with my accent they don't always sound correct, so please bear with me. So after that extremely long intro, let's get into the case for today. Today, we will be talking about Nikolai Dzhumagaliev, also known as White Fang, who is a cannibalistic serial killer from Kazakhstan. Nikolai Dzhumagaliev was born on 50 November 1952 in Uzhinagash, Kazakh SSR, Soviet Union, to a Kazakh father and a Belarusian mother. He was the third-born child of 4 children and the only boy in his family. By all accounts, Nikolai had a normal and happy upbringing. A fight during his adolescent years left him with his front teeth missing, and he was then given the option to be fitted with dentures. But rather than your traditional plastic, resin or porcelain dentures, he was fitted with teeth made from white metal. This earned him the nickname Metal Fang. After completing the 9th grade, he entered a railway school, and after graduating he was assigned to work in Atyrau. In 1970, at the age of 18, he was conscripted into the Soviet army, serving in chemical defense in Samarkand, Uzbek SSR. After completing his service in the army, in 1973, he had tried to become a chauffeur and also applied to university, but he failed on both accounts. After these failures, he decided he would travel to the Soviet Union and start a new life there. He traveled through the Soviet Union, visiting the Ural Mountains, Siberia and Murmansk, and at each new place he would try his hand at different jobs, including working as a sailor, an electrician and a bulldozer operator. In 1977, he made the decision to return to his hometown of Uzhinagash in Kazakhstan and started working there as a firefighter. Nikolai was described as intelligent, well-spoken, always clean-shaven and well-dressed, but not all too popular with the ladies. So, he decided that he would turn his sights on picking up sex workers instead. This landed him with 2 STDs in the same year. He blamed the women for this and soon developed an intense hatred for all women, especially sex workers. Nikolai started feeling more and more like he wanted to kill someone, and that someone had to be a woman. So he carefully and meticulously planned his first murder, observing, taking his time, wanting to choose the correct person at the correct time. On 24 January 1979, a 17-year-old girl was traveling alone on a rural path outside of Uzhinagash. He approached her from behind, slashed her throat, sexually assaulted her, and drank the blood from her wound. The next day, on the 25th of January, the body of this woman was discovered. A criminal case was opened, but the investigation did not lead to anyone's capture, and it was closed without being solved. During a later interview in his life, he described his first murder, saying, "I always loved to hunt, and often went hunting, but my first kill was my first time hunting a woman. When I went out to the track, I saw some young peasant woman. She was alone. I felt my heart pound within me, and I ran after her. Hearing my footsteps, she turned around. I caught up with her, and I put my arm around her neck and dragged her to the side of the landfill. She resisted, but I cut her throat with a knife. Then I drank her blood. At this point, from the village appeared a factory bus. I lay down on the ground and crouched next to her body. While I was lying there, my hands grew cold. After the bus passed, I warmed my hands on the woman's body and stripped her naked. I cut the corpse's breast into strips, removed the ovaries and separated the pelvis and hips. I then put these pieces into a backpack and carried them home with me. I melted the fat to fry with, and some parts I pickled. Once I put the parts through a meat grinder and made dumplings. I saved the meat for myself. I never served it to anyone else. Twice I grilled organs, the heart and the kidneys. I grilled some of the meat too, but it was too tough, and I had to cook it for a long time in its own fat. The meat of this woman took me a month to eat. The first time I ate human flesh, I had to force myself, but then I got used to it. He's all like, oh yeah, I forced myself to eat the meat. Like, bruh, you didn't have to do that. You're just disgusting. Between April and June 1979, he killed a further 4 women, luring them to a dark side of a park, sexually assaulting them and then killing them. He would most often use an axe to dismember them and remove flesh and other parts from their bodies that he would take home and eat. He often invited friends over to his place for dinner parties as well, unknowingly serving them with the flesh of his victims. He kept choice cuts for himself, not wanting to share those parts with anyone. Cannibals often refers to humans as the long pig, and Nikolai believed that dining on human flesh made him powerful. On the 21st of August 1979, in a drunken stupor, he accidentally shot and killed a friend of his who was also a fellow fireman. Nikolai was subsequently arrested for this action and charged with manslaughter. After Nikolai's arrest, they felt like something was not quite right with him and sent him for an evaluation to a psychiatric facility called the Serbsky State Scientific Center for Social and Forensic Psychiatry. Tongue twister. And there, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was then found not guilty of the crime by reason of insanity. He was set to continue serving time in the psychiatric facility. But he did not spend too much time there though. The authorities, as well as the psychiatrists treating him, were still, by this time, unaware of his murderous ways and the murders that he had already committed. He was then released from the psychiatric facility less than a year after the shooting incident, and after his release, he was returned to his hometown of Uzhinogash. Immediately after his release, he committed another 3 more murders. One of those was with dinner guests present. Nikolai invited some friends and their girlfriends to his home. You know, the usual, let's have some cut up humans without you knowing type thing. And this was when Nikolai decided to up his game. He lured one of the guests into another room whilst the others were still chatting away and eating their human snacks. Whilst he was gone, one of the guests opened the fridge to get a drink, and staring back at him was the cold dead eyes of the decapitated head of Nikolai's last victim. Standing there, frozen, not saying a word, another guest approached to see what was wrong, and saw not only the head, but also intestines laying there in the fridge like rolled up sausage, ready to be cooked and consumed. That's when they heard a scream coming from the back room where Nikolai had taken said female guest. Running to investigate, the guests got a lot more than they bargained for. There was Nikolai, kneeling over the dead woman, with a hatchet in hand. Nikolai didn't even seem to notice them there, too caught up in what he was doing. And this gave them a chance to flee the scene. Running screaming into the night, they immediately reported what they had seen to the police. The police were immediately dispatched to his place, and when they entered, they couldn't believe their eyes. Nikolai was still kneeling on the ground, but he was fully naked, smeared in blood from head to toe, busy dismembering the body with a hatchet. The police were completely shocked at what they saw and didn't know what to do or how to react. Like, I can only imagine what must go through your head when you see something like that. It must be so disturbing. Taking advantage of the pause from the police, Nikolai managed to escape. Butt-ass naked, hatchet still in hand, and he immediately fled to the mountains, thinking that no one would be able to find him there. A manhunt ensued to try and track Nikolai down, and after only 24 hours on the run, on 19 December 1980, he was found hiding at his cousin's house. Both him and his cousin were arrested, but his cousin was soon released after they affirmed that he knew nothing of Nikolai's crimes. During the investigation, Nikolai decided to come clean about all his crimes. He also told the investigators that he killed these ladies because they were sex workers and he was trying to rid the world of them. That just makes it better, right? No, my guy, it doesn't. They are human beings, no matter what. People like this are just disgusting, trying to justify what he did. Shortly after Nikolai's crimes had gained wide attention, another killer by the name of Alexander Skrinik was operating in Chisinau. He killed women and dismembered their bodies, after which he brought the body parts to his friend. Rumors then spread that Nikolai had escaped and reached the Moldovan capital, but these rumors were put to rest when Skrinik was convicted of the crimes, sentenced to death, and executed. Less than a year after his arrest, on the 3rd of December 1981, Nikolai Dzhumagaliev went on trial. Since he had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was again found not guilty by reason of insanity and sent to spend time in a special psychiatric center. After 8 years of being treated in the same forensic psychiatric facility, Nikolai put in a request to be transferred to a normal psychiatric treatment facility. His request was granted, and on 29 August 1989, whilst he was being transferred, he managed to escape, using the car in which he was being transported. In the past, when Nikolai had been pronounced cured and released, he returned to his native village, which is where he continued his murdering spree. Knowing that the villagers would likely turn him in, he did not return there. Instead, he remained wandering in the USSR. Nikolai was declared a fugitive, and he was reported to be seen around Moscow, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. Some even say that he committed more murders whilst he was hiding out. Nikolai hid in the mountains, mainly in Kyrgyzstan, where he collected medical plants and traded them for food with the locals. With each passing day, it became harder and harder for him to hide, with continuous searches taking place whenever a sighting of him was reported. There were constantly vehicles searching areas in the mountains, and they even started searching the area from above with hang gliders. These continuous efforts by the authorities made it difficult for him to remain hiding, and therefore he decided to divert attention from Kyrgyzstan, where he was hiding in the mountains, and wanted to put investigators onto a different path, and make them think that he was actually somewhere else. With all his free time, he started making a plan to make him think that he was actually in Moscow. Nikolai went to a person that he had become familiar with among the locals in Kyrgyzstan and asked them to take a letter from him that he had written to a friend. But to throw the police off his scent, this person needed to mail said letter from Moscow. The letter he had written to said friend ended with the terrible words, "I won't return soon. There are a lot of beautiful women here. No one will notice their loss." This strategy seemed to work, as the press and various publications soon spread the news about the letter that Nikolai was in fact in Moscow. As you can imagine, the people of Moscow were extremely alarmed and worried for their safety, with a known serial killer on the loose. with one newspaper even reporting that he had been seen in the city and the surrounding areas. This led to the authorities having to publicly refute these allegations, which in turn focused their search efforts back to Kyrgyzstan, where he had in fact been reported through several sightings. Nikolai soon decided that all of this was just getting too much for him, and he decided to end his adventures and time on the run by staging a theft. But he would get sent to prison for a minor crime under a false identity. But he also didn't go to a shop and try to steal something there or anything like that. He instead decided that he would go to Fergana, Uzbekistan and steal sheep. He wanted to be incarcerated in the Uzbekistan capital. His plan was successful, and in April 1991, he was arrested for being a sheep stealer. After his arrest, he claimed to be Chinese and accordingly was placed in the general cell of the detention center. During interrogations, he willingly confessed to the theft, but he could not explain how he had made his way to the Soviet Union. Because of this discrepancy, it made the police suspicious of him, whether he was in fact who he was saying that he was. A request was then sent to Moscow for assistance in the matter. A colonel who had participated in the effort to capture Nikolai was then sent to Fergana from Moscow, and he immediately recognized the sheep stealer as the cannibal and serial killer Nikolai Dzhumagaliev. He was taken into custody and returned to a psychiatric hospital in Kazakhstan. Dzhumagaliev said that he hoped that the court would accept evidence of his recovery and release him in the future. After the fall of the USSR, the psychiatric hospital that he was in declared him sane and tried to release him back to his hometown repeatedly. Previously, when he was recognized as cured and released, pretty soon after that, dismembered bodies were found in the vicinity. So, they protested adamantly that they did not want him sent back there and that no one wanted to take responsibility for him. Eventually, he was moved to a high-security mental facility, fenced with barbed wire, and he was isolated from society. This was in the village of Aktas in the Almaty region. There he works as a repairman on small equipment. During his stay at the facility, he filed an application asking to be given the death penalty, but it was regarded by experts as a symptom of the deterioration of his condition. The doctors at this mental clinic said of him, "His behavior is orderly. The patient is calm. He willingly works in the department helping the staff. We have no grounds to believe that he poses a danger to others. He can quietly be in society and be observed in a regular hospital." Specialists studying serial killers strongly disagree with the conclusions of the clinic's doctors. In September 2014, Nikolai was charged and convicted for his 10th murder of a female student, which was said to fit his MO. It was said that he committed this murder whilst on the run in 1990 in October. In January 2016, there were rumors doing the rounds on WhatsApp and Facebook, stating that Nikolai had escaped and killed a woman on New Year's Eve. This information was then picked up by several tabloids in Australia and in the UK. However, this was never confirmed by the police. They merely said that no arrest warrant was out for Nikolai. The police later tracked down the author of the false report, who turned out to be a 21-year-old female resident from his native village. She was subsequently arrested and confessed to making up the rumor. The true number of Nikolai's victims are not known, as it was estimated that he might have killed a lot more than the bodies that were actually found. So that is it for today's case, you guys. What a crazy case this was. Imagine opening up a fridge door and seeing a head inside. Yikes. As always, please leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I love hearing your thoughts on the cases. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a short one, but I really do appreciate you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Until next time, bye.